Welcome once again to Tyrone Bowman Live. A topic that I'm going to talk about, I call it political mind games. Snap or no snap, hunger is real. Political mind games, snap or no snap, hunger is real. Within the United States of America and around the world, and I'll be reading some articles that I found from several sources. Within America and the United States and around the world, hunger is real. Hunger does not discriminate based upon race, creed, color, ethnicity, cultural differences. Hunger does not discriminate when it comes to one's religious persuasions. Hunger affects anyone who does not have adequate food to take care of themselves. Basic supplies: food, clothing, and shelter. Food, clothing, and shelter. Basic things that all of us human beings need in order to exist in the world that we're living in. Oftentimes, individuals think that hunger is a ploy. Well, I call it political mind games because what's happening is that individuals are facing the horrors and the grim reality of what it's like to be caught in the matrix of politicalization. MAGA Republicans blame the Democrats. The Democrats blame the MAGA Republicans. Why is there a blame game going on here? You mean to tell me? Now explain this to me. If one party has total control of the Senate, the Congress, and the White House, and the Democrats are in the minority, that you cannot come to a consensus as to whether SNAP benefits should be given out to people that are desperately in need of. I saw several videos today. I think I'm going to pull some up on my iPad. I saw several videos of people in these long lines who are facing hunger. They're not just ordinary people. These are people from all walks of life who are now faces the grim reality of what's going on in this nation. You know? And when individuals don't understand what it takes for grown people to sit down and talk. Children have been taught from the time they're young, work out your differences, but grown people can't do that. You mean to tell me politicians who've been elected to serve, grown men, grown women can't sit down and work out their differences? What is this, a joke? Is this a game? They were sent to Washington to serve the people, were they not? Yes. That's why people put the nickels and dimes and quarters and dollars and everything together, hoping that they have good representation to advocate on their behalf. That's why they did it. But that's not what's happening. One party wants the other party to bow down to them. That's what they want. The Democrats said they're not going to give in. They're not going to bow down. So their consensus is, well, you know what? The blank with it. Let them go hungry. Well, guess what? You're hurting your own people as well. Let me read you this article from CNN. I wish these people would get some names that can be pronounced. Adam Cancrin, Tammy Luffy, Devon Cole. The article says this. The White House said today, it would follow through on plans to partially fund critical food aid during the government shutdown, despite President Trump's threat just hours earlier that he would withhold the federal assistance. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that she had spoken with Trump and that the administration would be, quote, fully compliant, end quote, with a court order to keep some supplemental nutrition assistance programs known as benefits flowing, known as SNAP. We're getting that partial payment out the door as much as we can and as quickly as we can, Levitt said of the program, which is more commonly known as SNAP or food stamps. Who do food stamps benefit? Supposed to benefit the least of these in the country. Who does it benefit? You know who's hurting the most? It's not black people. It's the MAGA Republicans who are hurting the most down in the southern states. Because I saw the videos today. And they're out there by the thousands upon thousands. They're not wearing the red and white MAGA caps today because they don't want to be identified. Because they are hurting. They are hurting in the worst possible way. In the Democratic cities, well, when I travel about, I see nothing but food lines outside of recreation centers, outside of churches, outside of schools, and people from all walks of life, all ages, all colors, all faiths, all religions, all ethnicities are in line with their baskets and their carts and their boxes, waiting to get the food that's being given. The president sparked widespread confusion earlier Tuesday when he appeared to abruptly reverse course on the administration's funding plan, writing on Truth Social that SNAP, quote, will be given only when those radical left Democrats open up the government, which they can easily do, and not before, close quote. Well, where's Johnson at? Where is the leader and the Speaker of the House at? Out of town. Nowhere to be found. They need to be able to sit down at the table of commonality and just listen to each other, come to a consensus on whatever issue or issues that they're trying to negotiate with. Because the midterm elections are coming up. Let me tell you something about people. When hunger hits, they're not going to care if you're Republican or Democrat, they're going to want somebody to pay. And I've said consistently, inflation is high. I don't care about the fake and lying numbers that keep coming out. Inflation is high. Joblessness is high. The economy is tanking. Food lines are growing. People are getting evicted, getting fired under the pretense of so-called layoffs. But the real estate industry is booming, though. Billionaires are getting richer and richer and richer because they don't care. As long as their bottom line profit margin, the dividends that they reap from the shareholders' investments, as long as that's soaring, they don't give two flips in the wind about ordinary people. So that move would have left millions of people without the monthly federal assistance they rely on to purchase food and sparked a fresh legal showdown. More than 24 states and a coalition of cities, nonprofits, unions, and small businesses sued in separate cases last week to force the administration to keep at least some of the aid flowing. Quote, this is immoral, see you in court, end quote. Cite Perryman, the CEO of Democracy Forward, a legal organization involved in the coalition lawsuit that also saw continuation of the SNAP benefits, wrote on X in response to Trump's post. The administration is tapping into a roughly $5 billion contingency fund to support partial benefits into November. The Department of Agriculture, which oversees SNAP, issued guidance earlier Tuesday to states for distributing the partial payments. Nearly 42 million Americans receive SNAP benefits, which amount to roughly $350 per household, and that is not accurate. Some people get less than $100 per household. The USDA last month said it could not pay November's benefits, citing concerns on whether it could legally use the contingency fund or move money from other accounts. Well, let me ask this question. Why is it that billionaires and CEOs of major corporations can always get a bailout, get corporate welfare, when they're the ones who wreck the corporations and destroy it? And as a result, hundreds of thousands of people continuously lose their jobs. How come everyday people cannot get the money and the help that they need? This nonsense about, quote, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, end quote, that is stupidity. It's foolish. And half of the people who are in power today, they came, with the exception of a few, the majority of them came from nothing. They were broke, they were poor, they were terrible students in school. They relied on welfare to get through, and now that they've made it, they don't give a blank about nobody else. This is not a game. A federal judge in Rhode Island scheduled a Thursday hearing to consider a fresh request for an order requiring the Trump administration to provide full food stamps benefits for November rather. Well, sometimes, listen, you take what you can get and you move on. Because the government shutdown is far from over. It's not going to end anytime soon unless people come to their senses and become mature adults with reasonable rationale in their thinking and can sit down and negotiate at the table of reasonableness together. All this thing is, I got to hate you, you have to hate me, and so because we hate you, you hate me, we're going to make everybody pay because there's nothing but hate flowing like water flowing from a broken faucet. And this is what's going on with political mind games, using it as leverage for political scores and political coverage and for political gain. Elections are going on right now as we're speaking. And people are angry and they've come out in unprecedented numbers. Republicans are in serious trouble come the midterm elections. Y'all can think it's a joke, you can laugh, you can talk, you can say everything is wonderful. You know darn well that you all did not vote for all this misery and suffrage that's going on in the nation. What you voted for, you for immigration reform. What you voted for, you voted against your own interests. That's what you did. Hoping that will hurt black people the most. Black people, well, we're used to not having. We're used to poverty. We're used to making it with little to nothing. We're used to going from one house to another and sharing with each other. That's how we grew up. But now the brunt of hunger is at an all-time high. A federal judge, I said that. The hearing before U.S. District Judge John McConnell will be the latest episode in a dramatic showdown over the benefits that is playing out in two federal courts. Let me tell you what's going to happen. I can sift through all this. Let's just say, hypothetically, if the Trump administration loses, then they'll just appeal it. If you think hunger is not real, let it happen to somebody in your family. Let it happen to some of your associates or friends. Let it happen to the little old ladies in your neighborhood that you know that can barely get by on that monthly Social Security check. Food stamps or no food stamps? What is going on here? How come hunger has become the political pawn in the game of chess? Why is it that individuals are afraid to take an unequivocal stand for humanity? Whether you like people, loathe them, or hate them, you don't let children in America go hungry. You don't let the elderly go hungry. Okay, so what? You hate the homeless. You criminalize them because they're homeless. They're hated on because they're homeless. They have no money. They have no jobs. They have no political coverage, political power. They're on the streets panhandling 24 hours a day, night and day. We all see it all the time. Some of them are out there trying to game the system. They're playing the game. They just want money for drugs and weed and cocaine and liquor. But some of them are out there generally because they're hungry and they have no place else to go. You know, in America, hunger hits, everybody can feel it. Let me see what Feeding America has to say about this. Now let's deal with some statistics here. I don't make this up. I'm going to bring some real statistics here. And I'm going to put it in capsule form. Now, Feeding America is a legitimate charity accredited by the BBB, the Better Business Bureau. And let's talk about the work that Feeding America does. Because it's a combination of so many organizations coming together. Feeding America is a United States-based nonprofit organization that is a nationwide network of more than 200 food banks that feed more than 46 million people through food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, and other community-based agencies. Forbes ranks it as the largest U.S. charity by revenue. Feeding America was known as America's Second Harvest until August 31st of 2008. And in the mid-1960s, during rehabilitation in Phoenix, Arizona, after a paralyzing injury, John Van Hengel began volunteering at a local soup kitchen. He solicited food donations and ended up with far more food than the kitchen could use. Around this time, one of the clients told him that she was regularly fed her children with discarded items, those that they throw out the back doors of restaurants every day in the trash that they won't give to the public for fear of food poisoning. So she got her food items from a grocery store and garbage dumpster. She told him that the food quality was fine, but that there should be a place where unwanted food could be deposited and later withdrawn by people who needed it, like a bank. Van Hegel began to actually solicit unwanted food from grocery stores, local gardens, and nearby citrus groves. His effort led to the creation of St. Mary's Food Bank in Phoenix, the nation's first food bank. Food banks are real. Food banks are important. They don't deal with the politicalization of races and color. They deal with the fact that they're only concerned about feeding hungry people. In 1975, St. Mary's was awarded a federal grant to assist in developing food banks across the nation. This effort was formally incorporated into a separate nonprofit organization in 1976. In 2001, America's Second Harvest merged with Food Chain, which was the nation's largest food rescue organization at that time. In 2005, Feeding America began using an internal market with a synthetic currency called, quote, shares, end quote, to more rationally allocate food. Currently, currency is allocated based on the need, and then individual banks bid on which foods they want the most based on local knowledge and ability to transport and store the food offered. Negative prices are possible, so banks could earn shares by picking up undesirable food. All this is dealing with the economy. When people don't have SNAP benefits, they can't shop. When they can't shop, major corporations will begin to lose profit sharing dividends. Shareholders, investors begin to lose money. Profit margins go down. Revenue is down. Layoffs, firing start happening. And then you got simple people within the chat, because they think I can't see the comments, who just full of idiocy. Because you're stupid. I'll tell you exactly what you are. You are stupid. If you don't like being over here, take your ass off this channel and go place else. I didn't invite you. You don't have to be here. but I'm going to continue to address the issue about hunger and homelessness in America. Somebody has to talk about it, whether folk want to hear it or not. This is not about your games and your silly pet peeves and your peccadillos. This is about people's lives being at stake. This is about people who can't feed their families. This is about people being unsurreptitiously being fired from their jobs. This is about politicians playing political mind games for the purpose of political leverage with people's lives. And that's what this is about. So negative prices are possible, so banks could earn shares by picking up undesirable food. The previous centrally planned system had penalized banks for refusing any food offered, even if it was the wrong misallocations, like sending potatoes to Idaho, food rotting away in places that did not need it, and the wrong types of food being delivered, like not matching hot dogs with hot dog buns. Feeding America in 2015 saved more than 2 billion pounds of food that would have been thrown away otherwise, but could instead be distributed to hungry families. Tyrone Bowman live. I have to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Tyrone Bowman Live. I'm talking on the topic political mind games. Snap or no snap? You know, I wish I could, but I probably wouldn't, could actually sit in the room with the most powerful people on the planet and just listen to their conversations and then speak as an ordinary person to get them to understand that reasonableness doesn't cost you anything. Having the heart of a humanitarian doesn't cost you anything. Helping those who cannot help themselves doesn't cost you anything. Because at the end of your days, no matter how many billions you have, you're not taking it with you anyway. Oh, you can bury it. And the grave diggers for stealing. You're not taking not one car, not one house, not one penny, not $1. None of it's going to the grave. People, we have to do all the good we can while we can. I'm on a divine mission. I can't speak for nobody else on YouTube, but I can speak for me. I'm on a divine mission for real. I'm not anybody important. I'm just an ex-con that God had mercy on and a law student who's become an advocate to fight and speak for those who cannot fight and speak for themselves. Hunger, people going to bed hungry in America. How many of you heard this when you were growing up, when you didn't eat all your food? What did a parent or parents say? There are children starving in Africa. Isn't that what they always said? Well, now there are children starving right in your own neighborhood, in your own city, in your own town. In 2020, Feeding America said that there were about 11 million children suffering from hunger in the United States. That's only 5 years ago. During the pandemic, the coffers of Feeding America were stretched to the limit. 11 million children, according to their statistics. Children, along with families and seniors having trouble making ends meet, were suffering the most. The COVID-19 pandemic, according to Feeding America, increased hunger levels and the number of people in need of food banks, according to Patty Habeck, the president of Feeding America, Eastern Wisconsin. The number of people increased by 36% at the height of the pandemic and had not yet decreased until autumn of 2021. Feeding America created the Meal Connect platform in 2014, which helps food donors like grocery stores, restaurants, and caterers to connect with local food banks and pantries. Now, I want to say this on the behalf of every decent millionaire, every decent billionaire who are doing good things with their money to feed, to clothe, to house, to educate. And they don't want any credit. They don't want any coverage in the press. They don't want their name written across the sky. They don't want their name in lights. They just want to do right by ordinary people. Political mind games. Why is it that in America it has to come down to this? The polarization in political ideology is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen since I've been on this planet. You mean you hate some people because of the differences of their political beliefs? One party hates the other party because the other party won't agree with what they agree with. And yet these nonprofit political organizations are getting millions upon millions of dollars from people who think like them. come into their coffers to espouse their political ideology and vitriol. And it leads to chaos, confusion, pandemonium, hate upon hate, bitterness upon bitterness, unforgiveness upon unforgiveness, all because of the pigmentation of somebody's skin. That's why America cannot get away from the issue of slavery. No matter how much they try, they're all going to continue to come back. That is not true. All billionaires are not corrupt, mister. There are some wealthy people who do right all the time. And you got some unscrupulous, greedy, heartless billionaires, and they've been that way since they were born. And they just grew up to become even worse. Now, let me show you something here. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. If I can, I can. If I can't, I can't. But I'll try. And if people think that hunger is a joke and this a game, wait until it affects somebody in your neighborhood, somebody in your locality, and people that you know. It won't be laughter then. I said it won't be funny then. And why is it that? Let me find this other article from the Wall Street Journal. Why is it that people think it's funny to laugh at people's misery? You ever notice that? It's a difference between being a cynic and a comic. Then you got a lot of scammers. Let me talk to y'all out there. You scammers within SNAP, scammers within Medicare, scammers within food stamps. You all have made it hard for people who really need food and clothing and shelter. Because you thought you were playing the system through Section 8. You thought it was a game, calling yourself getting over with that ghetto mentality. You're collecting child support, but illegally getting SNAP benefits. You got the Section 8 housing, and most of the people can't even pay the little bit of money. Talk back to me. And you know the conditions that you got the housing over, but you got all your friends and your peoples and your peeps all up in there. Then when they throw you out on the streets, then you cry racism. It is not racism. How about if you abide by the rules? The welfare pimps, the welfare queens on Facebook, laughing and clowning and buffooning. You're making it hard for people who really need help. So no, I'm not just going to talk about political mind games. I'm going to talk about all of it because all of it is a part of the problem. And this is why children and elderly people are going hungry. Thanksgiving is not going to be Thanksgiving if people can't go out and shop. It will not be. Christmas will not be Christmas. Stop telling your children that Santa's coming and you don't have the money to perpetuate that lie. You know Christmas has nothing to do with Santa Claus. Walmart, Target, and all these stores are going to be angry and very bitter because commerce is going to be down. So it's important. Here's an article right now from ABC News, written by Mary Kakatis. Food banks, pantries see a surge in demand after SNAP benefits halted. 42 million Americans were affected. Food banks and hunger relief organizations are seeing an increase in the number of people lining up for food packages and calling helplines since SNAP benefits were halted on November 1st. Nearly 42 Americans have lost benefits meant to help low income and vulnerable households pay for groceries. President Trump has stated today that, well, I think he's since changed his mind, so I'm not going to read that. A USDA official told a federal judge on Monday that using emergency funds for the program could take a few weeks to up to several months. Meanwhile, food relief workers say calls from people asking for help are spiking, and food banks may run out of supplies in a few weeks unless drastic action is taken or the government reopens. And the government is not going to be reopened because the Democrats are not going to cave in and the Republicans are not going to show no empathy toward anybody. You don't think that this is a game? That something is amiss here? I've already done that. I'm not going to keep blaming both Republicans and Democrats. I've dealt with this in so many videos. I'm talking about who's being affected now. I don't care about these folk on either side. I'm concerned about the men, women, and children who are being affected because of political mind games. That's what I'm concerned about. Judge Berg, the CEO of the nonprofit Hunger Free America, which works to end domestic hunger, told ABC News that calls to the organization's hunger hotline are higher than they were during the last week of October. In September, the organization received 1,420 calls. In October, it received 1,691 calls. Berg expects the number of calls for all of November to be higher than the previous 2 months. Quote, we are currently starting to hear anecdotal evidence of the massive spike, close quote, he told ABC News. One agency in California, where we have someone based, said their number of people literally doubled over the previous distribution. He continued, quote, and so we're really seeing just a tremendous spike in people needing food and concern and fear and to some degree, panic and despair over the nation's largest source of food aid going away literally overnight, end quote. I don't make this stuff up. This is real. Eric Cooper, president and CEO of San Antonio Food Bank, which serves 29 counties. Now listen to this, in Southwest Texas. This is MAGA country. In MAGA country, the food lines are out of control. Said the number of families seeking help has increased since it was first announced that there would be a disruption in SNAP benefits should the government shutdown continue. Cooper said San Antonio Food Bank, which is part of the nonprofit organization Feeding America, typically feeds 105,000 to 120,000 people per week, but is now seeing close to 170,000 people per week. Let me go back down to San Antonio, Texas, in Southwest Texas. They are facing a hunger and food crisis. They are facing high unemployment. They are dealing with the lack of food thereof. So this is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This is a humanitarian issue. Concessions are going to have to be made somewhere in order to get this government reopened. They're going to have to come to the table, sit down, talk, and reason it out. Oh, look, cuss each other out, fuss each other out, lay each other out, but get the problem solved before it is too late. He continued to say that 50,000 to 65,000 people seeking assistance are those affected by the shutdown, either because They're a government worker without a paycheck or a SNAP recipient who is without benefits. Government workers are in these food lines because they haven't been paid. Food lines, government workers, excuse me, my nose is, excuse me, in the food lines. Government workers are in the food lines. On November 1, more than 350 households visited one of San Antonio Food Bank's locations, of which 2/3 have been impacted by the government shutdown, according to the organization. Cooper said in the normal shift, there are 50 people working the food distribution lines with 100 people in the warehouse preparing and packaging food. He has to ask for 150 additional volunteers to help meet the demand. And I'm going to say it again. Food, the lack thereof, is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It's a humanitarian issue. Even the Head Start programs that serve about 65,000 people, children, are affected. Tens of thousands of children, according to ABC and families, could be affected by ABC News could be affected by dozens of Head Start programs potentially closing if the federal government continues to shut down. About 134 programs across 41 states and Puerto Rico will see their operational funding cease, affecting nearly 65,000 kids, or 10% of all Head Start children, according to the National Head Start Association. Listen to the states impacted: Florida, Georgia, Missouri, and Ohio. All MAGA countries. May see the most impact, potentially affecting more than 24,000 children and more than 7,500 staff members. This is real. And I'm not here for clicks. I'm not here for clickbait. I'm not here for likes. I'm here dealing with facts. It's not a lie. And what is Clinton? You know, some of you folks are so dismal in your thinking. President Clinton has been out of office forever. Hillary was the Secretary of State. She never became president. And according to the article, an additional 50,000 to 65,000 people seeking assistance are affected by the shutdown. Y'all still think it's a game when people go hungry? Look at this. Look at this photo. I found one. Look at this photo of people in a food bank. This is not made up. This is real. Those are not people of color. In a food bank, looking for food. Nobody should be criminalized because they can't afford food. Now, this is a photo of people down in the Denver Inner City Ministry food pantry looking for food. Grocery prices are so high until it's ridiculous going in and out of these stores. I'm in them, I know. I do price comparison checks. The prices are ridiculously high because the greedy merchants have instituted price gouging, trying to bring more suffrage upon people who are already hurting. And when people can't pay their bills, what are they supposed to do? When children are going hungry and they're in school and they don't have the $1 or $2 or $3 for lunch, what are they supposed to do? They don't have breakfast, what are they supposed to do? When seniors are no longer getting moms on wheels, what are they supposed to do? Meanwhile, politicians are still getting paid. They're still enjoying their vacations and their luxurious lifestyles. They're still interacting with the, I agree, your family, I don't know, but of course your family is your responsibility. Nobody's telling you to take care of anybody else's family. This question is rhetorical. People will be eating more leftovers. They're going to be eating more junk food than ever because they can't afford to survive. And then it's easy for people to say, well, go out and get a job and stop being lazy until it affects you. When your child loses their job, when your father loses his job, when your mother gets fired from her job, and people start telling you the same thing. When you can't make that car payment, that credit card payment, when you can't pay the mortgage payment on time because you no longer have a job, because you were one of the persons that were laid off or fired. Now you're robbing this person to pay that person. You're using this credit card to pay off that credit card, hoping that you don't have to end up in bankruptcy court. When billionaires wreck the economy, when billionaires wreck corporations, when billionaires get what they want, what do? They file for bankruptcy and reorganize under a different name and start a new corporation and do the same dumb, stupid stuff all over again. Meanwhile, everyday people, they don't want them to file for bankruptcy protection. It's not right. We are now into 30 days or more with the government shutdown. It has to come to an end. And in closing, I'll put it this way. Reasonable minds, reasonable people are going to have to come together at some point in time and sit down together, irregardless of political ideologies and political differences. Because hunger is not discriminatory. It affects all. Political mind games. Snap or no snap. But they want folk to come out and vote so they can have jobs and benefits and power. Meanwhile, the constituency suffers. Never surrender. Never quit.